Hi, it's Joe Morgan with the Tech Leader Spotlight podcast, where we interview tech leaders to learn about their journey and leadership lessons learned along the way. This show is brought to you by the Tech Professional Money Operating System, where we help tech professionals who know they're doing well financially but aren't certain if it's enough. And they also know that they want to achieve more with their even more with their finances that they already have. We help you invest cash wisely, make the most of stock awards, minimize your tax bill, and create clarity and confidence so you can spend less time worrying and more time living the life you want. If you'd like more information, look me up on LinkedIn. That's Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Today on our podcast, I'm very excited to have Ayush Goyal, who is a senior software engineer at Vesa, which is now a part of ServiceNow. And he's also an experienced leader who specializes in building scalable cloud and AI-driven systems. Welcome to the podcast, Ayush.
Thank you.
So building scalable cloud and AI-driven systems. Tell me what that phrase means to you.
So basically, for the past few decades and all, like everybody, wants to have a scalable system because of the number of users that are trying to engage. And like after the advent of social media and all, it's a lot more exhaustive. So, and with the advent of AI, right? So it is more and more easier and better to incorporate like some of the aspects of AI into like already scalable systems. For example, right, if there's like a logging mechanism for investigating some issues across scalable systems, having an engineer investigate through the logs is a bit tedious. However, like employing AI as an agent behind those logs who is like scraping it and driving out like, meaningful aspects out of it and supplying it directly to the, investigators is helping a lot.
I see. And so you're building the systems that would do those jobs. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Terrific. We need that for sure. So let's dive into our questions. So what does leadership in the tech space mean to you?
So leadership to me is like all about instilling confidence in the team, like bringing the best out of all your subordinates or your followers so that the project is headed in the right direction as you are expecting it to be. I mean, there are going to be a lot of jitters and obstacles, and that is where a leader comes in, bringing in that clarity. And another important aspect is to obscure those issues and bigger obstacles with their team so that they can perform at their best, right? And also one thing that I've experienced across my software engineering career, which has been a like a very unique career curve because I got an opportunity to work with a small, mid, and large scale company. Is that like you don't really need titles to be a leader. You can be a title by being an individual contributor as well. I mean, I have seen like, individual contributors, provide like a significant contribution as well as like, their managers are doing. So there is a lot of opportunity out there as a leadership.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I actually think it takes some pressure off of an individual contributor to exhibit some leadership skills to the rest of the team, right? Because if you're really just there for your technical expertise and that's it, you know, that can be great, but it could also be challenging longer term because things evolve, things change, and maybe that expertise isn't so needed at some point in the future. But leadership, getting the team to do the things that need to be done is always needed. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah, that's true. And in addition to that, like there are leaders who aren't really like, really experts at like what the team is actually doing it. But what they are great at is like, navigating through those challenges and bringing out that clarity for the team.
Yeah, navigating the challenges and bringing clarity for the team is great. Bringing clarity, you said that a few times. I think that's terrific because if we have clarity of what we're supposed to do,
All
then we
right.
just do it, right?
Yeah, you're probably like digressing in different directions if you don't have that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, great. Now, there's a lot of challenges in the tech space today going on, certainly on the job front. A lot of layoffs going on. I think that's still going on. I don't think it's over. Tell me, what piece of advice would you recommend to create resiliency in the case that layoffs come somebody's way?
I have actually a bunch of advice here. Number one, you have to be like the best at what you do right now, so that like if things go worse within a company or anywhere, like your name doesn't pop up,
Hmm.
right? And number two, you need to be ready for all the situations. Even though like you are the best in the best, you could just be let go. So there's no certainty right now. So I feel like few great ways person can get some mental pieces by like number one is networking, right? So that thing matters more than ever. Like
Yeah.
today, networking is the best thing that can get you your foot in the door. I mean, for example, right now I know Joe Morgan, so he can get me introduced to a lot of amazing tech people, right? So, and like maintaining like a live resume, you should be ready. You shouldn't be spending like a week or two like spending time on a resume, right? And constant learning, teach and learn, that's like the best way to go. So I'd say like, yeah, keep all these three things rolling, and I think you'll be in a comfortable space. And
So networking, maintain a live resume, and constant learning, teaching and learning.
right,
Yeah. And I'm sorry, you were going to add to that.
sure. The thing with like constant learning and a few tips that I wanted to share, right? So with this culture back again, right? So everyone is bringing back employees back into the office. That is also going to change the interviewing culture. So one advice I would give is like buy a whiteboard or use a pen and paper to code,
Hmm.
because they're going to be called in offices now, like for interviewing as well. So yeah,
So get practice being in front of a whiteboard and talking through and thinking as you go.
yeah, not just virtually behind a monitor.
That's great. That's great advice because there's definitely, the move back to office is not going to end anytime soon for various reasons. I have my own opinions about that, and they're not flattering to management, but because I do think that most of us could work from home if management would just figure out how to manage people who work from home. But the easiest path that they can take right now, unfortunately, is to just bring everybody back in the office. So those live interaction skills using a
Exactly.
whiteboard, I hadn't
Right.
heard that tip before. That's really good.
And one more interesting thing that I read in some article was like you're gonna receive your W-2s soon, or if you have already received those, look at that number and make sure you set aside for another year as well.
Mm. Set aside in what way?
That particular number, right? So let's say someone's earning like 150K or something. Make sure you have that much cushion in your financial planning.
So like some level of cushion so that
Yeah,
you can that's really important. We call that an emergency fund, meaning
right.
that what's an emergency? Getting laid off certainly qualifies, right? So if you have cash in the bank or cash ready to go to pay your expenses, it takes off so much pressure and allows you to think more clearly and make better decisions and maybe even just take some time off to reset because it could be that one of the reason that layoffs happen is that there's some dysfunction going on in the group. And if you've been in the middle of this dysfunction, you don't want to go right into your next job carrying some of that dysfunction with you. You want to be able to cleanse yourself a bit between roles.
Yep.
So having the money there is an important thing. Well, that leads into our next question. So for you, Ayush, what's the most important financial decision that you've made in your tech career, whether it's about compensation or equity or whatever?
So in particularly like for tech careers, right? So there's like a lot of equity and ESOPs involved. I mean, and this is like one of the hardest decisions to make is to like, get some equity out of there and like diversify it. So, and it gets harder and harder as you're like, working for that same company for like years, and it just gets to pile up and you're like, no, I don't want to get out of it. What if like the stock shoots up and all? So I think one thing I would really, you know, say like that I've made a good decision on like is diversifying my portfolio earlier and not like waiting until like, I'm like 4 or 5 years, down and like it just becomes harder to take stuff out of it. So I would definitely like say that diversification of, especially my ESOPs into readily available funds was one of the good decisions I feel I made.
Yeah, that's great. That's another really good tip is, if you're working for a company and you're getting stock in the company, that's part of your compensation. And if the company has troubles through no fault of your own, or there's some level of fraud that happens, which does happen in companies, even tech companies, that can really drive the stock price down. It can cause trouble for the company. It can create a situation where there's layoffs. And you can find yourself where you're laid off now without a job and your wealth has dropped because you had so much money in stock. So that diversifying step is super important. You're already undiversified in your income. You don't want to be undiversified in your asset.
Yep.
So great. Well, thanks so much for joining us today, Ayush. You've really brought a lot of thoughtfulness to the conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Just as a reminder, this is sponsored by the Money Operating System, where tech leaders gain clarity and control of their finances so they can live out the rest of their lives with intention. If you want to know more about us, look me up on LinkedIn, Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Until our next episode, let's all focus on making the next right decision.